Guys, you're about to hear a very famous list of 9 business selection criteria. If you have your iPhones, you should be starting to write down.
Yeah, they're all on my blog, so you don't necessarily need to worry about writing them down. But like one is, is there a $1 billion revenue opportunity? Which in my case, which really means is there a $20 billion market in there, or a $10 billion plus market? Because it's as hard to build a small company as a big company, so might as well build a big company. Not to mention it's easier to attract people, it's easier to attract capital, et cetera. Two is more is a personal choice, but what is the business model? I like to know who I charge, how much I'm charging, what the gross and net margin structure is. Investors typically think that a business is good if your customer acquisition cost is at least half the net contribution margin per customer for the first 18 months. So if I think through what the theoretical gross and net margin of the users are, is there a business there? And there are many businesses that launched with no business model, from Instagram to Google, that ended up doing very well, but the 5-year survival rate of a startup is like 5%, and the 5-year survival rate of a startup that launches without a business model is about 0.01%. So that's a 500x multiple, and I'd rather have it in my favor. Number 3 is how capital efficient is the business. So we happen to live today in reasonably frothy times, and capital is reasonably available. But if you need more than $1.5 million or $1 million in seed money, and more than like $5 to $10 million in Series A money, and it's probably not an idea that's suitable for a startup. I mean, if you need $100 million just to get started, well, if you're Elon Musk and you've made that money before and you can put your own money on the table, that's fantastic. But otherwise, it probably fits better within the R&D budget of a larger entity. I mean, given our capital constraints, especially if you're coming out of business school or you've worked for a company for years, maybe you have 100K saved, maybe you have $500,000 saved. But if your company needs 100 million, no one's going to write you a $100 million check up front. So capital efficiency, and I'll go faster through the next few. I mean, 4, I like scalable businesses. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a company, let's say like Walmart or Starbucks, but to grow, they need to open new stores. And our competitive advantage typically is managing really smart people and small groups of really smart people, and not managing millions of people. And so I'd rather be in a business where the number of employees I need to go from 1 million revenues to 100 million revenues to 1 billion revenues is not all that different. Number 5, a company that's in a growing market. Number 6, I'd like to be in a business where the risk of disintermediation or margin compression from suppliers or customers is very low. So I don't want one customer to account for 50% of the revenues, or one supplier to account for all my costs. Number 7, an idea that's in a rising market, because a growing market, because a rising tide raises all boats. Number 8, an idea that I know how to execute. And number 9, an idea that I like. I mean, I know a guy who built a $1 billion company that was making widgets that were like holding the wheels in the airplanes, and it's and I'm very happy for him that he makes that job, those wheels and those widgets, and that it works. But I wouldn't wake up in the middle of the night or those nuts, being built correctly. It wouldn't interest me enough. And so, and those heuristics that serve me well. But that said, once you've selected the idea, it's all iteration, it's all execution.